Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Table Talk Tuesday as we recognize the life of Saint Fabian, patron saint of tradition and patron saint of rootedness in our Christian beliefs and rootedness in our Catholic beliefs and rootedness in our respective faith practices. So today we invoke Saint Fabian to watch over our conversation with our guest of honor, Haran Levenberg. Thank you, audience, who joined us this morning for a beautiful story on conversion, a story about enculturation, a story about his life here at St. Joseph. We are blessed each and every week. We have a special guest. So this is week 4. And now we are joined today by Haran, who will share his story with us. So Haran, thank you for being here. I know it began with Judaism. I know it continued into agnosticism. I know it continued into Christianity and now Catholicism. Please share with us this awesome journey of faith and transformation.
Well, it's been a long journey, a journey that I didn't know I was on, honestly, until I moved to San Antonio. So I grew up Judaistic in a different sort of cultural way, which we can discuss later. And my journey went through years of just learning about the truth, and I spent a long time not caring about anything. I didn't believe in anything, and I wasn't against or for it. I didn't go against Christianity. I really just wasn't for it. When I found Christ, it was after many years of drinking, as well as some other illegal things that I'd gotten into while in the military. But I never in a million years thought I would be Catholic. I met my wife 15, 16 years ago, and she was a cradle Catholic, and that was the only time I railed against a religion, because I was of the opinion that Catholicism was evil. It's what I grew up believing, right? Idol worshiping, non-Jesus fearing, non-Bible reading people. So I just didn't know anything about Catholicism. And she never pressed it on me, she never pushed it on me, but we very rarely talked about it. So yeah, to find myself becoming a Catholic 2 years ago is sometimes still like a shock to me.
You mentioned your time in the military, and God bless our men and women in uniform, living and deceased. We are so blessed for your service and your selfless and sacrificial love for your families, and certainly for this great country and many countries where you serve in times present and times past. Haran, you spoke about the early days, or maybe the early months of being in the military, and how you found yourself overwhelmed, seduced by drugs, and so much addictive, destructive behavior. Is that common in the military to see so many go downhill even while they're serving?
Absolutely. Drugs is pretty big. Back 20 years ago when I first joined, it's a lot less now, mostly because of a lot of drug testing and strictness. Alcoholism is rampant. I became an anomaly when I quit drinking. To this day, I'm still in the Guard, and I'm pretty much the only non-drinker everywhere I go. So whether you deploy or you're just on base, everybody, drinking is life. So even before I became Catholic, I've been sober for 15 years, and I almost have to defend my soberness now versus it being a witness. I'm sure it still is a witness, but people are like, you don't drink? Like, what's wrong with you for not drinking?
You say alcohol is life. That in itself is concerning, but at the same time tragic that our men and women in uniform feel they have to compensate by going down that road. Is there any semblance of life or sanity in the military where men and women in uniform don't feel seduced by alcohol and addictive behaviour?
I think if you have a strong faith and a strong marriage, strong God-fearing woman in your life. I think that helps. That's what helped me. But there's so much stress, even in a non-combative situation, just the constant expectations and the constant work pressure. That's what people do. That's just, I mean, when they get to work, they start talking about what they're going to be drinking that night. You know, and the next day they talked about how much they drank the night before, and it almost becomes a competition on who can drink more. It's almost like, I don't know, first couple of years in college when everyone's drinking and away from home, but that's how it is almost every day.
Is that concerning, knowing that the day after may cloud how our men and women think and behave, especially in the context of predictability and unpredictability, knowing the volatility of our world and all our world may present to us, especially in the context of violence and terrorism and so much hate?
I think so. It makes it to where you have to have people always on guard. My latest example, I was in Guam right before I moved to San Antonio for 6 months. It's a paradise. You know, surrounded by water. We were there, no combat, no war, no fighting, no bombs. And me and the people in charge, every night, our mission was basically to go downtown and see who was inebriated and needed to get a ride home or needed to be removed from the bars. It is like I said, I mean, it's life for the areas I've been in, both in the Army and the Air Force.
It's so sad that they feel that life must be lived and adopted that way. You know, also the concerns not just for mental health, but for the physical health and the psychological health of our men and women in uniform. You know, moving forward, we're blessed here at St. Joseph that we have a very strong Alcoholics Anonymous movement, and this is a time to pay tribute to Mary Mac Gillinger, who was so instrumental in bringing and leading Alcoholics Anonymous here at our parish. So we're blessed that we can serve, you know, people in all professions, not just the military. All professions experience not just, you know, alcoholism, but a constant need to drink to almost calm the stresses of life, to almost seek out new ways to be alive, and yet at the same time so unhealthy way of living. So I want to thank Mary Mac and the successors now who will take over this ministry and this program here at St. Joseph. And those who are watching and those who are present, if you know anyone who is struggling with alcohol, certainly give Haran a call. You know, what better resource and what better insight and perspective can you get than from someone who lived through it? Haran, moving forward into the horrors of Catholicism, you know, and the hatred and the vitriol waged against Catholicism in light of your experience, how did you move forward? What was the moment of conversion? What was the prompt? What was the inkling to remove yourself from the horrors and vitriol of Catholicism?
Well, I have two clear moments. The one that led me to the decision to start the path to become Catholic, and the other one was the realization of what my journey had been my entire life. And the whole time my wife and I had been together, we'd gone from church to church to church to church. And I have nothing against non-Catholic churches. That's what saved me from alcoholism and drugs initially. But I never understood why I would church hop so much. And my wife would go to support me, but she's always not wanted to be part of that world of non-Catholic churches. And we moved to San Antonio, which is a whole story in itself, and how God worked. And we went to a bunch of churches in the first few months we were here. And I was in church in Valverde, and it was a Bible study, and someone asked for prayer at the end of the Bible study. It was an adult Bible study, and the room burst into laughter, almost as if they were making fun of this prayer request, which really, I don't normally get offended that easily. My wife did, and we left without saying a word, and I was home with her that day, and I was just really frustrated. And I was like, "What's the point? All the churches are the same. Why don't we go try a Catholic church this weekend?" And I never said that to myself or to her. She was like, "Wait, what? Are you serious?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so. I think it's time." And I'd been inside a Catholic church before. Both my kids were baptized, in one in Brazil, but in Brazil, so in Portuguese. And then I'd been to a couple of masses, and I may or may not have made fun of everything because I didn't know what we were doing. So up, down, cross. I was like, I never know what's going on. So she said, "Okay, as long as you promise not to make fun of it, I'll go with you." So we went to off 1604, off Thousand Oaks. There's a big Catholic church out there, St. Mark's, I think. And we got there maybe 30 minutes early, and I don't know what happened. It was for the 5 o'clock mass, the youth mass, and the kids were practicing, and you have the stained glass windows, and I sat there and I just had tears coming down my cheek, which I don't cry. I'm not a crier. My kids were making fun of me, of course. And then mass. I don't remember to this day what was said. I just know that's what I wanted, and that day I made the decision to join RCIA. The moment that it all connected in RCIA to me, when I realized my journey was a couple of months in, Deacon Mike and the other leaders of RCIA were explaining the history of the church. And they were talking about the Catholic Church, from Judaism to the Catholic Church, and then the Catholic Church to the Reformation, where Martin Luther broke away. And for the first time it hit me that once he broke away from the foundation of Christ, and help me if I'm saying this wrong, and it broke into your own interpretations, and anybody could interpret the Bible however they saw fit, which is why this church built up and this church would be created. And if you weren't happy where you were, you just go start a new church. And I sat there and I realized that was the answer to the question that I didn't even realize I had. The truth that I've been searching for my whole life laid in the foundation of the Catholic Church, where Jesus said to Peter, "You are my rock on this church. You are Peter, on this rock I will build my church." And I told them that day. I said that blew my mind, and I think I'd already made my decision that I wanted to be Catholic up until that point, but that solidified it. There was no turning back after that.
Beautiful. You mentioned Roberta several times, and we're blessed. Roberta and your family are active members now of our parish. We're blessed by your presence and your devotion, your weekly devotion, which is very prominent and pronounced. Also, I thank Deacon Mike and the RCIA team for their leadership in working with Haran and all who have gone before him and all who will come after him. I thank Sue Torres for the behind the scenes bureaucracy. Thank you, audience. Thank you, audience. It's always nice when recipients, of RCIA and many more ministries acknowledge, and affirm that reality. St. Mark's, the beginning of tears. How did you find us? Why did you abandon St. Mark to come to St. Joseph, of all places?
That is a good story, and I'm very happy I found St. Joseph. We went to St. Mark's, but after that we actually started going to Holy Trinity. And we lived out in Bulverde, and we would drive to, I didn't even know St. Joseph existed, so I started the RCIA process. I had to get, remarried, convalidation, and we went to see the pastor, and he basically wanted us to do marital studies for a year, maybe a year and a half, before we could get married. And there was all these rules that they put in place, which I'm sure would have been beneficial for us, but we had been together already 14 years. My mother-in-law was here. My dad was visiting. We wanted everyone to be present for the marriage. So I was doing some research, and I actually contacted Sue, who put me in touch. I honestly don't remember how I got in touch with Sue, who put me in touch with Deacon Mike. And I was on the phone. It was scary. I'm on the phone with the deacon. I'm like a little nervous. And I'd only gone to one RCIA meeting at Holy Trinity. And he was like, "No, come here. Like, we don't care. We'll marry you right now if you want to get married. Father Francis will ask you some questions, and you can come to RCIA." He just spilled the whole thing out for me, and it just seemed so simple, almost too simple. And so I came and I met with Deacon Mike and signed up for RCIA, went to the informational meeting, and I'm so glad I did, because it ended up being much closer to us. We're only 10 minutes from the church, and the first sermon, the first mass we came to, we sat there. We said, "Okay, we just need to get through RCIA, and then we'll go back to Holy Trinity." And then you came out and spoke, and obviously it's the power of God in you as a priest. But we were like, "Nope, this is it. This is our new church home." and we haven't been back to Holy Trinity since. So we absolutely love St. Joseph, and I'm grateful that we're here. And you married us. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
A few months later, after Mass, which was really special.
Beautiful. You speak now as a full-fledged Catholic. You speak now as a full-fledged Christian. Do you keep in contact with the men and women, from the early days of the military, when you were a totally different Haran? Have you made contact with them in recent years or recent times, and have they noticed a change compared to who you were and who you are now?
There are a few because of social media. There are a few from church in Virginia, which is where I moved from. But because of my job in the military and in the government, I didn't have a lot of social interaction outside of my job. So those who knew me as an alcoholic and as a Christian have seen the change, are proud of me. I will say this one older couple who were almost like parents to me that knew me when I was coming out of alcoholism and drug use, and I was able to let them know that I'm now a full-fledged Catholic. And I only see them online, but yeah, those who have, and my entire family. So I'm one of 10, and they all have seen. I went from the black sheep of the family to a religious conservative Catholic. So there is remarkable change there. And then my wife's entire family as well has seen the change.
I noticed over the years, it's always the convert who becomes more proud of their Catholicism and more active and more energized. You look at cradle Catholics, you look at young adults and older adults who don't have that energy or enthusiasm the way you see, manifested in a convert. What's happening there? Why do you think they're so, inactive, apathetic? Cradle Catholics, you see then the convert on fire, and that fire remains forever.
Well, for me, I have so much to learn, and there's so much historical information and truths to be found. I have the catechism by my bed. I plan to read the whole thing in a year. That didn't happen. I don't know when I'll get through it. It's very complicated. But when I listen to the apologetics on the radio, and they just know so much about the Catholic faith. And my wife's a cradle Catholic, and she's pretty on fire. Maybe not to the same degree, but I think it's because those of us who converted didn't have that. We don't take it for granted. Maybe I didn't grow up. I didn't go to Catholic school, so every time I hear of a new saint, I'm ecstatic about it. The patron saint of this or the patron saint of that, and the history of it, and so many ideas that I knew both as a Jewish man and or Jewish kid and as a Christian. It all makes sense now in the fullness of the Catholic Church. So it's exciting for me to read and learn and understand after 37 years of not understanding, but not realizing that I didn't understand.
Beautiful. With that note, we pray our audience, present and absent, will come to a greater understanding, of their faith. As I said earlier, Saint Fabian invites us to stay rooted in apologetics, to stay rooted in our Christian beliefs, in our interspiritual traditions, and we are blessed to be able to own that and share that with you. Haran, it was a pleasure and an honor. It's always a greater privilege to see someone rock bottom, come so far spiritually and intellectually and psychologically and emotionally to be our guest, and we are truly blessed by your presence here today. Thank you, audience. I can see you are on fire, not just Haran, but for your own faith and for this wonderful Table Talk Tuesday. So we will close now with a prayer from our good friend, Wisdom. The benefits of finding wisdom. Happy the man and woman who finds wisdom. Happy the man and woman who gains understanding. Her profit is better than profit in silver. Better than gold is her revenue. Wisdom is more precious than corals, and no treasure of yours can compare with her. Long life is in her hand, in her left are riches and honour. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all her paths are peace. Thank you all. We love you and leave you. Join us, please God, next Tuesday for another special guest. Bye.